Streatham in South London. It's one of the country's most economically and ethnically diverse constituencies, united, among other things, by its pro-European stance, with 78% voting to remain in the referendum. On Friday morning, I caught up with the local MP, Chuka Umunna, at a local youth centre. I started by asking him about why he changed his mind about leaving the Labour Party.
In 2016, I just want to read a tweet that you sent in response to a Conservative commentator about a potential split in Labour.
Tim Montgomery,
Tim Montgomery, you know it.
I know it, yeah, go and read it.
The courageous thing to do is to stay in our party. If we leave and split, we give your Tory party decades in office. No thanks.
Well, I'd say, and that was genuinely what I thought at that point. Let me tell you why I changed my mind. One was, after really soul-searching on this issue, can I, in all conscience, say that I want to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister and the team around him, put them in charge of our national security? Now, the 2017 general election, let's just be honest, nobody thought that that was going to be a prospect. A future general election, it could be a prospect, and in all conscience, I can't do that. Secondly, they're both as bad as each other. I don't want either a Labour or a Tory government. And the third thing is... If you had to make a choice between them, who would you say would be the better? Well, I refuse to make that because I think they're both as bad as each other, as I said. And really, the third point is this. I mean, if you look at what has transpired in the party, the awful, appalling culture, which, you know, is illustrated vividly by the disgraceful anti-Semitism in the party, a visceral hatred of people of other opinions, a refusal to accept that actually it might be okay not to necessarily think that everything that Jeremy Corbyn says is golden. It's become unbearable. And I think, you know, ultimately that is what has driven people to leave the party. And it's a great sadness. You know, I wish I still felt the same as I did in 2016, but I don't.
You don't? You say it's been unbearable. What has it actually been like?
Going to meetings, being heckled, shouted at. I have received, you know, threats from supporters of the leader where I've had to call in the police and somebody was arrested. Ultimately, you don't join a party to be fighting year after year other people within it. You join a political party because you want to change our country and change the world. And I found that a ridiculous amount of my time was being taken up dealing with internal matters.
Has it been frightening?
At times it's been extremely unsettling, and you do question, why am I doing this? You know, this is not normal. And I've been on your show, but when I've been on your show before, I said part of the problem in politics at the moment is the extraordinaries become ordinary. These types of behaviours have become normalised.
And who do you blame? Do you blame Jeremy Corbyn?
I blame Jeremy Corbyn, but I'm sorry, I also blame other people who have acted as bystanders. It is disgraceful that the shadow cabinet has not done more, not been more vocal, not demanded more, not threatened to resign over what has been going on anti-Semitism. And the problem is, it's too easy to choose an easy life because there is a rule by fear. You know, particularly post-2017, when the Labour Party rules were changed, MP after MP is frightened of being removed from their station, from being an MP. Now, what I think a lot of, you know, the leadership on the left didn't bargain on is actually, certainly for me, my principles, my values, what I believe in, come before being an MP. And if just being an MP is the kind of end in itself, and not your values and your principles, and you're not prepared to lose your job for your values and your principles, you should not be doing it, in my view.
Now, it's important to say, those around the leader will dispute what you say on anti-Semitism. They say that they're taking it absolutely seriously, that they're investigating complaints and they're rooting out people who have behaved in that way.
Well, look, first of all, it starts from the top, right? You have a leader who backed up and promoted an anti-Semitic mural. You have a leader who has talked about Jewish people not having an English sense of irony. You have a leader who has attended a wreath-laying ceremony for terrorists.
Do you think he's anti-Semitic?
And on top of that, you've got a party which it calls disciplining someone. So there have been people who've been guilty of egregious anti-Semitism, and the sanction is just being reminded of the guidelines.
So do you think that he is...
That is not a party taking it seriously. I don't know whether he is personally anti-Semitic. His actions would seem to suggest he's got questions to answer on that front. But I've been very clear, the Labour Party is institutionally anti-Semitic. And you either put your head in the sand and you ignore it, or you actually do something about it. And the failure to do something about it, just for me, I just found it made my position untenable. You know, my family's been victims of racism. One of the reasons I joined the Labour Party was because of its anti-racist ideals. But if that isn't matched by its actions, then I can't have anything to do with an outfit that goes along with that.
Heidi Allen, another member of the independent group, said that you're probably going to be the leader. Are you?
Well, I'm not, and we're an independent group. We haven't formally met yet. We'll be doing that.
A little bit of a smile on your face
in the coming week.
Is the tempt you?
Look, I'm clear I want to play the biggest role in this group, and I think one of the things about the way we operate is the recognition that we're all leaders. And I think one of the ways you're...
come on, that's a little bit of a...
Well, it's not actually, because the way you're institutionalised in the main parties is that there's a great leader who you clap in and out of events and the rest, and, you know, you worship and everything is wonderful.
So that's what you're hoping for?
And you just follow... No, I don't want that. I wouldn't want that, because I don't think that is a grown-up, necessarily the most grown-up way of doing politics. And everybody's got a role to play. People may have different views. Great. You know, let's hear that out. Let's work them through and come up with policies. And we're going to try our best to be culturally different from the existing parties. And the fact that you've got people coming from different traditions and we're not tribal is, I think, the key difference culturally you know, of the group compared to the establishment parties, all of them.
So we know what you're against. We know you're against Brexit. You made that pretty clear. But what is the independent group actually for? Well,
look, we are a group of independents at the moment. We are not a party and we're not a movement. Please do go and look at our website, theindependent.group, to find out more about us. We have set out in detail our values there. I think, look, ultimately our party system is broken. You've got a bunch of parties which are divided, which are not doing their job with the competence people expect and not putting the national interest first. Now, we're quite clear that we believe that we should have the closest possible relationship with the European Union because we're internationalist. We believe that the individual should be given a platform to succeed, but we have individual responsibilities ourselves, and people don't want their lives to be run by the state, but they need support, education and infrastructure, health service. But also, we believe ultimately work is an incredibly important value, and we need to give people a level of security that they expect. Now, none of the established parties are providing the answer to those challenges. And you think of the
what are the answers then? What kind of policies could, what is quite a disparate group of MPs, what policies could you unite around specifically then?
Well, we've set out our values. I think in week one, for us to set out a full policy programme and manifesto, given we're not a party, wouldn't be the right thing. But let me just say this, look, one of the strengths of our group is that you've got people who, yes, share progressive values, but they come from different traditions, from the One Nation Conservative tradition, the centre-left, within the Labour Party, the Liberal tradition. So you've got these different traditions which are united behind a set of values. Now, one thing that people have been really interested in is, well, what do, for example, the different members think about the austerity that we've seen over the years? Now, some, like Anna Soubry, a former minister, is quite clear that she thinks the fiscal trajectory that her government was on in office was the right one. Others, like me, think actually it was the wrong one.
It's quite a big difference, isn't it?
Yes, but this is the point, is if within our group we're capable of forming a consensus around policies when we get to that point, then we have a much better chance of coming up with something that can unite our divided nation. See, this is what I think people struggle to understand, is part of our argument is that the old tribal politics, where you have opposition for opposition's sake, is done. I think the public are done with that. I think one of the refreshing things that they have found in the Brexit debate is that you have got people from the left and the right of British politics, for example, who've come together where they actually agree on something. And actually, in any event, I'll talk about the left and the right, we know that this left-right, you know, fulcrum around which politics has revolved over the last few decades is nowhere near as important as it was. Your age, the demography, you know, your age, your background, your class, your geography, all of these things, these cultural issues are playing much more in British politics. And yet politics and the system and these old parties are carrying on like nothing has changed. They just want to carry on and do business as usual, the status quo, when what we need in this country is fundamental change.
You're talking there about a great realignment of politics, kind of ripping up the rule book.
Yeah.
I just wonder if actually this is more about a group of people who are passionate Remainers, who the thing that unites them is a second referendum, getting together over Brexit, and actually the most likely thing to happen, perhaps, is that the party leaders decide that actually you can be ignored because your votes were already written in, and you're all going to lose your seats at the next election.
Well,
that's a risk, isn't it?
The DUP have exercised quite a lot of influence in this Parliament, and there are 10 DUP MPs.
But your votes were already factored in.
There are 11 of us. And so in a hung parliament, a relatively small number of MPs can actually make a difference.
So could you go into confidence supply?
Just a minute. Let me finish answering the question, which is, look, I do think we need a realignment. We are trying to break a system which is usually rigged in favour of some established parties. I think we can overcome that now. There's no doubt that we actually have to completely tear up our electoral system altogether and have a proper system of proportional representation which better reflects the modern tapestry of Britain. But right now, can we make a go of this? Can we make a change? We've got to try, and I definitely think we can.
Are you going to be fighting Streatham at the next election?
I certainly don't intend to leave the field. Look, this is the community I'm from and I grew up in. And the reason why I left the Labour Party this week is because I believe the party has betrayed my community. We scored the highest Remain vote in the country in 2016. I stood on my own personal platform, which committed to campaign and do everything to stop the Tory hard Brexit, and that is not what the party is doing, and that's why I have decided to leave it. But look, this is my community. I represent it. I've got no intention of leaving the field.
Leaving the field in Streatham?
Leaving the field, this is my community. My family's here, so why would I leave it?
And do you not worry, though, that it seems a bit cowardly to not fight a by-election right now?
Well, I believe, and the independent group believes, in parliamentary democracy, and under our constitution, as Jeremy Corbyn himself has said very clearly, he's tweeted to this effect, you elect the individual first and foremost.
I mean, that's the technical answer, though, isn't it?
But it's not technical. That is actually our constitution. And if I look at why people voted for me in 2017, I got a over 15% increase in my vote, primarily because of my stance on Brexit. And again on the doorsteps, people were saying, look, I'm not very keen on what your party's been saying, and I'm not on Brexit, and I'm not terribly keen on your leader because of his previous Eurosceptic positions, but I do like your position, so I'm going to stick with you.
But what do the people think who really matter, his constituents?
Do you think people will still vote for Chuka Umunna, even if he wasn't part of the Labour Party?
Yeah, why not? But he's a good person in the area, and we love him.
I like Jeremy Corbyn, and I completely disagree with Chuka Umunna.
Yeah.
If he goes against the party leader, unfortunately, I can tell you, he's not coming back.
I can kind of understand why he did, because of the whole anti-Semitic row that's going on with Labour. But I think another party isn't the way to do it, another middle-class party as well. And I think the people of Streatham voted for him as a Labour candidate.
Everyone here knows who Chuka Umunna is, and a lot of them think he's doing a good job. But the loyal Labour vote feels very strong. And the question is, if the independent group can't win here, then where can they win?